Yo, party people. Number 2. Okay, December 21st. So we are in the book of Ezra. We are following the return this time of the second group of people under Ezra himself. Ezra's book is, of course, written by Ezra. And then he also wrote First and Second Chronicles. The first group of people that went back, we saw in the first 6 chapters we covered, was under Zerubbabel, right? He was of the lineage of the Davidic kings of the southern kingdom, and he also has the name of King of Judah. So the first group went back under him. We saw last time that Zechariah and Haggai were coming out, telling them to get rebuilding the temple again because they had stopped building the temple. We saw some of the locals coming against them, harassing them, taking them to court. But the work was continuing. So now we see 58 years has passed, and the next group of people have been, there's a new king in town. His name is Artaxerxes. I think in the last video I said that during that 58-year window, there was another king, Xerxes, and I think it was said, I said that's where the story of Ruth came in, but it's actually the story of Esther, right? So the story of Esther, where she's brought before the king and becomes the queen. So that's where you see her stories in between that with that Persian king. But now we're seeing Ezra's group going back. So we just read the first section. So please go back and watch the first video because there's some good, interesting stuff in there that I got from the study Bible that I shared. All right, so we're saying that after he gives his genealogy and who he is, and it says that verse 6, chapter 7, the king granted Ezra all his request according to the hand of the Lord his God upon him. Interesting thing about that they mentioned when they say the hand of the Lord his God upon him. That's an unusual statement in the Bible. Whenever you see it upon him, that's a good thing. That's a positive thing. That's God doing good. There's the teamwork. But then you also see the Lord his God, the hand against him, and that's when there's problems, right? So God's against you. So some of the children of Israel, the priests, the Levites, the singers, the gatekeepers, and the Nethinim came up to Jerusalem in the 7th year of King Artaxerxes. So this is after Darius, remember, although Xerxes was in between the two of them. And Ezra came to Jerusalem in the 5th month, which was in the 7th year of the king. On the 1st day of the 1st month, he began his journey from Babylon. And on the 1st day of the 5th month, he came to Jerusalem, according to the good hand of his God upon him. For Ezra had prepared his heart to seek the law of the Lord and to do it, and to teach statutes and ordinances in Israel. So again, in the last video, first video for today, I mentioned how important the role of the scribe has become within the Jewish community, right? These guys were dispersed throughout all the land. They didn't have their temple anymore. They didn't have their normal ritualistic type things that they could do. So the teachers, these guys became the containers of the law, the containers of the knowledge of God. And so they continued to grow in importance. And he was considered the most important teacher of his time in this area. And so that's why he went back. So this is the letter of Artaxerxes to Ezra. This is a copy of the letter that King Artaxerxes gave Ezra the priest, the scribe, expert in the words of the commandments of the Lord and of his statutes to Israel. Artaxerxes, king of kings, to Ezra the priest, a scribe of the law of the God of heaven, perfect peace, and so forth. I love those beginnings. I issue a decree that all those of the people of Israel and the priests and Levites in my realm who volunteered to go up to Jerusalem may go with you. And whereas you are being sent by the king and his 7 counselors to inquire concerning Judah and Jerusalem, so just real quick, those 7 counselors, they say if you go to Esther 1:1, you see the same thing. There's 7 counselors around the king. It's just kind of interesting. With regard to the law of your God, which is in your hand, and whereas you are to carry the silver and gold which the king and his counselors have freely offered to the God of Israel, whose dwelling is in Jerusalem, and whereas all the silver and gold that you may find in all the province of Babylon, along with the freewill offering of the people and the priests, are to be freely offered for the house of their God in Jerusalem. Now, therefore, be careful to buy with this money bulls, rams, and lambs with their grain offerings and their drink offerings, and offer them on the altar of the house of your God in Jerusalem. So it's important here to note that Persia at this time had been involved in some wars. There were some skirmishes with Egypt. There were some things going on. And so it was important to the kings of Persia to try and always appease all the gods. Any god that they could find, they would appease. So there was a political reason for sending them back. This would be a bulwark against Egypt by having an ally in that area. But at the same time, there was a religious reason. These guys really did believe that, if they were honoring this god, along with all the other gods, that it would help them somehow. Verse 18, and whatever seems good to you and your brethren to do with the rest of the silver and gold, do it according to the will of your God. Also, the articles that are given to you for the service of the house of your God, deliver in full before the God of Jerusalem. And whatever more may be needed for the house of your God, which you may have occasion to provide, pay for it from the king's treasury. So he's following along with what Cyrus and Darius did. And I, even I, Artaxerxes the king, issue a decree to all the treasurers who are in the region beyond the river, that whatever Ezra the priest, the scribe of the law of the God of heaven, may require of you, let it be done diligently. Up to 100 talents of silver, 100 cores of wheat, 100 baths of wine, 100 baths of oil, and salt without prescribed limit. Whatever is commanded by the God of heaven, let it be diligently done for the house of the God of heaven. For why should there be wrath against the realm of the king and his sons? Okay, so just real quick, this is he's still writing the letter, but I wanted to just point out that he's giving a specific area that they are to give him. So it's not the entire kingdom. Ezra can't go anywhere in the kingdom and ask for money or, be given money. It's this one area that's responsible for making sure that Ezra's needs for the temple are met. And the needs are specifically designated, right? So much of this, so much of that. The one thing that was without limit was the salt. So in verse 24, we're continuing the letter. Also, we inform you that it shall not be lawful to impose tax, tribute, or custom on any of the priests, Levites, singers, gatekeepers, Nethinim, or servants of this house of God. And you, Ezra, according to your God-given wisdom, set magistrates and judges who may judge all the people who are in the region beyond the river, all such as know the laws of your God, and teach those who do not know them. Whoever will not observe the law of your God and the law of the king, let judgment be executed speedily on him, whether it be death or banishment or confiscation of goods or imprisonment. Okay, so that's the end of the letter, but it's interesting to note here that he's giving Ezra governmental control or judicial control over his people. This wasn't over everybody. This is over the people that are claiming to be Jewish and that are claiming to be worshiping God. He's going to allow him to execute judgments over them, right? To act as the legal person. Verse 27. Now this is Ezra. Blessed be the Lord God of our fathers, who has put such a thing as this in the king's heart, to beautify the house of the Lord which is in Jerusalem, and has extended mercy to me before the king and his counselors, and before all the king's mighty princes. So I was encouraged as the hand of the Lord my God was upon me, and I gathered leading men of Israel to go up with me. All right, so that's the end of chapter 7, so that's awesome. So you see him going back. Again, it talks about how the numbers were super few. They were very small. It took them several months because even though that was a small number, there were still a lot of children and women and of course cattle and things like that. So it was a very slow process, and the route they took wasn't direct because it would have gone through the desert. So they had to make a circuitous route to get there. But you see the second group going back. All right, so that's all I have for you today in Ezra. So we're going to continue that study tomorrow, chapter 8. Just remember, there's no way to the Father but Jesus Christ, right? All you have to do is say, Jesus, I don't understand everything. I'm not even sure that I know you, but I give my life to you, and then you're in, right? And then I would just encourage you the only way you're going to know God is to read His Word. So just get into a study or just get into a habit of reading His Word every day, but even if it's just a little tiny bit. My readings might not work for you if you try to follow my readings. But I would encourage you to get a good study Bible. I know I've seen other people on TikTok talk about these Bibles that you can like scan things and get all this information and detailed and different commentaries. That's awesome. Now, I don't know anything about that stuff. I'm still totally old school. I'm like, if it's not a hard Bible, then I'm lost. But although the Bible Step app is awesome, STEP, you can actually look up a verse and highlight one word in there, and it'll take you everywhere in the Bible, and you can read everywhere where it's used and just really do an in-depth study, and it really opens your eyes as to this just one little section of the Bible. So anyways, the times can be the times that we're in are very dark. So just those of you that are Christ, just be a light to others, because there are so many people need the light. All right, so that's all I had for you. Read your Bible. Jesus is coming. Peace. See you tomorrow.